Hi, I'm Adriana Smith. Welcome to Smith Party of Six. Today I'm going to teach you all about how I schedule our homeschool week with Charlotte Mason, and not like the lesson breakdown. Sorry, my cat's crazy. But more of how often per week we do certain subjects and just how I arrange the whole thing as we are gearing up for this new school year. Just really getting down what our basic flow for the day is gonna be. So to start off, I go ahead and cut up some construction paper. Different colors mean different things. My brain just works really well that way. And I'm gonna use these as I try to map out what our weekly schedule is gonna look like. So for example, purple for us is anything Bible related. So I have ones for New Testament, Old Testament, our apologetics, catechism, and then our like Bible drills that I have them do where they find stuff in scripture. And with each of these, you'll also see a number over here off to the side. So that number tells me how many minutes we're gonna do things. I also roughly made things a certain size based on how many minutes we're gonna do things. So like the 20-minute pieces are about this wide, whereas if something is gonna be 10 minutes roundabouts, then it might be closer to this size, just like slightly smaller here. Here's one that would be like a 5-minute strip, just really, really thin. So that just helps me as I'm kind of mapping everything out. You don't have to do it that way, but it's easier to see based on size where you're gonna put things. So while I'm making these, I'm gonna think about what color that I want each thing to be. So like we have Bible stuff in one color, the riches, like picture study, composer, all of that sort of thing in one color. Each child has their own color that I kind of create their block with. Family read alouds are a certain color. I even do one for breaks like snack and lunch so that I can easily see those. I just want everything to be in a different color so that when I'm mapping it out, it makes it super simple. Now I will say that you can buy cards like that online. One of my friends actually recently did that. I did this the same way last year and it just worked out super easy for me. I always have a bunch of construction paper because the kids like to do stuff with construction paper. And so that's just what I do instead of paying for them. But I know that A Delectable Education has them. You can buy them from their shop. Simply Charlotte Mason might also have something like it, I think, if memory serves properly. So yeah, you can get them from other places as well. I've never used either of theirs, but I'm sure that they're great. Obviously, those are places that are known for Charlotte Mason homeschooling. But if you don't want to pay for it and you have a bunch of construction paper anyways, this can be the way to go. So I spend time cutting out all of them. I'm gonna think about how many times per week we're gonna do each certain thing. So for example, Elijah is dark blue. This is his history. I go ahead and put his initials on it just in case I would forget who's what color. I have the time of 20 minutes. And we're gonna do history probably 4 times a week for him. So I cut out 4 of these and had them all in a stack, nice and ready to go. So you're gonna do that for each of the subjects, kind of figure out how many times per week your child is going to do each thing. I will say that it helps if you already have your yearly schedule planned out. That is going to be a different video here shortly. I just need to finish editing it. So you really should plan out your year first so that you know what your reading schedule kind of needs to look like, and that'll give you an idea of how many times per week you're gonna have to do a certain subject. So once I have all of those cut out, I'm going to go ahead and organize them by subject, by color, in their own little stacks over off to the side of my table and leave the rest of my table for what we're about to do. I just want to at least start seeing what I'm working with, how many subjects we're dealing with, that sort of thing. And then comes the fun part. For me, this is honestly like a puzzle. You want to start arranging by day. So I'm gonna mark out for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We are 5-day-a-week homeschoolers. If you're 4-day, whatever that looks like for you, just have kind of a column for each day of the week, and you're gonna start arranging your slips of paper based on the columns. For us, what really worked out last year, and I have a feeling that it still will this year, is that I would go ahead and do Aspen, our youngest. I would go ahead and do his stuff straight off in the morning. He is my early riser, and so it's nice. We just kind of have that alone time with just me and him, working on his lessons in the morning before anybody else is awake. So I go ahead and get his stuff done first. By the time that he's done, usually Arwen is awake. And so I can go ahead and at least start on her lessons before it's time for breakfast with everybody else up. Now, when we have breakfast, obviously there's a break in the day, and then the kids also go ahead and do their chores after breakfast. So that way, when we come back to our lessons, then it doesn't feel like there's a ton of other stuff in the house that needs to be done. That can be super distracting for me. And so we just go ahead and we all do our morning chores, things that we need to get done to start off the day before coming back for the rest of our lessons. And sometimes at that point, I would still have a little bit to do with Arwen. She's my year 2, by the way, my 2nd grader this year. After that, we would kind of work on the majority of our family stuff together, like our Bible and riches. And then I would move on to the big kids. At some point in there's going to be a snack, just kind of depending on where the times fall. And then we would finish up the rest of our schedule, usually before lunch. Sometimes even last year it would go over, and this year it looks like we're also going to go over at least just a little bit. But you know, I'm schooling 4 kids. So if I can just go barely over lunch with 4 kids with doing Charlotte Mason homeschooling, then if you have less, you definitely can. Or even if you have more, but your kids are a little bit older. My kids are at the age right now where, like, my 2 older ones, they can do some of the subjects on their own, but my 2 younger ones need me for everything still, which is totally fine. But that does mean that our day is going to be a little bit longer. So at first, when you start to set out all these little slips of paper, you're just kind of getting the general feel of the day. Think of this as kind of like your rough draft. That's why you're doing it with these little pieces of paper, so that you can move things around, manipulate it as you need to easily, and change it as you go. So I'm just gonna kind of start doing what I think our basic schedule is gonna be. And then after I kind of get everything in there, I'm going to look especially at the times. Basically, I want to line up those times with what I know our day is going to be like. So I have a certain amount of time before we're going to start breakfast. So I'm going to put those subjects before breakfast that I know can actually fit there and make sense. Then I have a certain amount of time between breakfast and when the kids will probably want a snack. So I'm gonna put a certain amount of things there. And then of course, between snack and lunch, and anything that doesn't fit between that is going to have to be overflow after lunch. So you'll see me kind of going through and counting, calculating the time, figuring out, okay, this works up here, this doesn't, and I kind of move and switch things around as I go. Because the other thing with Charlotte Mason homeschooling is that you want varied lessons. So for example, I'm not gonna do a history lesson followed by a literature lesson. Those subjects are too similar. And so it puts a lot of strain on the kids, and they might start to lose that attention, which of course is super important. So in order to not lose that attention, we have to kind of mix things up. So for example, I might have a history lesson followed by a math lesson, followed by some geography, and then some poetry before moving on to literature or something like that, you know, just the basic gist. So once I kind of start getting the breaks in there too, then even that can help it be more varied. Like if they're having like a 5-minute little snack break really quick, that's a break for their brain that they're getting after something. And so that kind of helps me rearrange stuff and switch it around. Also, certain subjects, they just do better after they have some stuff in their stomach, and they don't do as well on an empty stomach. So for example, one of my kids can be a bear with math, but if I put math directly after when they have a snack, or right after breakfast, or right after lunch, you know, just after they've had some food, I've noticed that that actually kind of helps them. And so I'm gonna keep all that kind of stuff in mind. Homeschooling is just really intuitive, like knowing as a mom what your children need and just doing those things to help the day run more smoothly. That's all that we're doing right here. We're thinking about what their brain needs. We're thinking about what their stomach needs, and just kind of rearranging things to make more sense that way, while we're also counting the time to make sure that things fit inside of those blocks. That might seem like a lot to you. All of this in general might kind of seem like a lot to you. I know that some people, it freaks them out. I have one friend that last year I shared my schedule with her. She was just kind of interested. She hadn't heard of Charlotte Mason homeschooling before, and it kind of freaked her out. She was like, no offense, but I looked at your schedule and I felt really overwhelmed. So if this overwhelms you, don't feel like you have to do this. This is just my way of doing things, and not all Charlotte Mason homeschoolers will do it like that. You just have to find what works best for you and the way that you're able to fit things in with your kids. I do it this way because it's like I need to see all the moving parts. I need to know how the puzzle's gonna fit together. I need to have a plan so that it's easier for me to stick to the plan and get the things accomplished that we need to get accomplished throughout the year. So this is a surefire way. I know that if I plan everything to the 9, sure, there's still gonna be stuff that goes wrong, so I have to be flexible in that way. But if I plan everything out really, really well, then I know that basically I'm setting us up to be able to finish the year the way that we want to. And so that's why I do it like this. So once I really have everything set out in the way that I think that it's going to work, our lessons are varied. Our days don't ever look the same. We have the stuff in there that's important to us, like taking at least one long nature walk a week, that sort of thing. Once I have all of that in there, then I'm gonna convert that to something digital. So for me, last year, I put it into a spreadsheet. So I had like the master schedule that had everything on there where I could see who I was with the entire time and what the other kids were supposed to be doing at that time. And then I broke that down, and each child also had their own schedule that I put in the front of their student binder. I'm gonna do a video on that soon too, but I would put it in the front of their student binder so that they always knew what they were supposed to be doing, whether it was with me or on their own. And that is how I plan our homeschool schedule for the year. So if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask me down in the comment section. I love to hear from you guys. If this video was helpful, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing for more videos like it. And I will catch you guys next time. Bye.